Thank you for viewing our Flash Talk. My name is Tim.
My name's Gwen.
My name's Ryan.
And we're excited to present today on our recently published memo establishing climate change resilience in the Great Lakes in response to flooding. Here, we will expand on our recommendations to more precisely include our vision for environmental justice and accountability in the Great Lakes region.
In recent years, both average rainfall and the frequency of heavy rainfall storms in the Great Lakes Basin have been consistently increasing as a consequence of climate change. Cities and communities along the coasts are experiencing record high water levels, severe flooding events, and coastal damage as a result. This damage compromises the safety of communities and the water quality of the Great Lakes, which supply more than 40 million people with drinking water.
Protecting the Great Lakes Basin from flooding and pollution is critical. However, since the Great Lakes are shared between the United States and Canada, they present a uniquely complicated region for planning, as they are protected by several international treaties and national compacts, including the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement and the Great Lake Restoration Initiative.
In order to increase climate change resilience against flooding in the region, we recommend that the US and Canada better coordinate to prepare the Great Lakes region for the effects of climate change. We envision this happening through the implementation of the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative in our existing treaties. We additionally recommend expansion of this initiative in both its scope and long-term commitments to facilitate cooperative efforts to protect the Great Lakes against climate change. Next, we'll explain the rationale behind these recommendations.
Our first recommendation is to relocate the successful U.S. Great Lakes Restoration Initiative under the U.S.-Canada Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement Treaty. The Restoration Initiative has been well funded since its creation in 2010, but an equivalent initiative does not exist in Canada. By including Canada in this initiative, we would better secure continuous funding of Great Lakes projects regardless of volatility in either nation's executive branch.
Our second recommendation was to reestablish the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative as the Great Lakes Restoration and Protection Initiative. While somewhat symbolic, we hope that adding the term protection will release more funds for large preventative projects, such as cleaning up Superfund sites that would release toxic runoff into the Great Lakes, or financing projects to replace combined sewage overflow systems that leak sewage into the lakes. We'll also address the lack of a concrete definition of what a restored Great Lakes is, and draw attention to the fact that maintaining water quality will become even more challenging with the onset of climate change.
Our final recommendation is to include climate change resilience within the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative as a sixth priority. With unprecedented flooding as a result of climate change, we suggest that additional proactive efforts should be made to preserve coastline health and implement green infrastructure in the Great Lakes region. This requires acknowledgement of climate change and proactive measures to combat it. Adding climate change resilience would expand the scope of the initiative to include the terrestrial Great Lakes Basin, enabling the implementation of green infrastructure and reducing the necessity for additional water quality restoration in the future. With these new coastal projects, we urge communities to involve all stakeholders, residents, indigenous communities, local NGOs, and businesses to ensure that the projects are conceived from the bottom up to serve the local community.
In conclusion, the root goals of our recommendations are to ensure that the communities along the Great Lakes have access to funds and can tailor their climate change response to fit the needs of their residents and the unique ecology of their regions. There will never be a one-size-fits-all solution to preparing the Great Lakes coastal communities for flooding events, but by encouraging implementation of green infrastructure with input from all stakeholders, we hope that these recommendations would enable previously underserved communities to combat the effects of climate change.